work. Whoa. Whoa. Now I'm 20-meter high. Steps. Okay. High. Okay, I'm down now. We'll see if it's working. Welcome back to our Natural Locals YouTube channel.
This log has so many imperfections and burrs on it, so we have to cut those stumps and burrs and imperfections that are touching the upper log so it can sit down correctly to the bottom log to make a perfect joint. When installing a log over 7 saddles and notches, sometimes besides skills and knowledge, you need a little bit of luck. This time we were quite lucky and this log fitted in the first try. Today we have another problem. We thought that this log here will be the right one for the house, but we somehow, don't know why, we didn't measure it, and it's 1 meter too short. So we have to peel this one. We are now trying to warm up the pipes to melt the ice. But if we don't get the water pressure pump running because of the cold, we'll have to do it the Nick Riavets way, the old school way. The water is not frozen, so we do it our way. Nick Riavets, we'll do your way some other time. We just measured the height, how accurate we were during building, and that corner is 2 centimeters lower. That's because the ground here is not concrete, solid ground, it's earth, dirt, and it's simply weight of the house just pressured the soil for 2 centimeters. That doesn't matter too much. When put on concrete foundation on where the house is going to be, it will be completely level. We just have to compensate those 2 centimeters when cutting the last beam for the rafters.
But what are you doing, Andrei?
Because we have to cut this wire completely. It has around 30 little wires, so that I can spin it off in the other direction than the wind. In the counter direction of the wind spin the crane. And the problem is the wires are all black. They have small numbers on them, but they are kind of old and sometimes you don't see that number, so I have to mark every wire. Nick doesn't have this problem. He has the wooden crane with no electricity. 20 wires in the cable. Now I can finally unspin the cable and solve the problem. It works! I saved the day again!
I'm Leo, and with me is Andrej, one of the craftsmen that is building this log house, and we will guide you through this build.
Here is Aleš. He went ahead one day before the crew. He started the build and fixed the first row of the logs to the concrete foundation. He was there the whole day, and the next day we joined him, and here we are together now and continuing the build.
The logs are already insulated with ecological sheep wool, and as you see, the process that was going really fast a minute ago, now it's going really slow, because it's really important to get every logs in exact position.
The wedges are from the ash wood, which is quite elastic, and that's why we use it. It's hard and elastic, you can't break it easily. The holes for electric wiring is pre-drilled, and we're now putting the tubes for electric wires, so the electricians have easy job to do after us.
What it could be a 2-day work turned out to be 4 days almost, because we had many issues with the crane. More about it later.
Wedges are 60 centimeters long. When we put them in the holes and hammer them to the end of the hole, the rest, whatever that is sticking out, the rest of the wedge, we just cut it off.
The logs we're using for this build are spruce and fir logs. The dimensions of this log house are 9 by 10 meters or 29.5 by 32.8 feet. The crane here is actually a truck that it's actually the owner's truck, and he is driving the crane.
The owner actually borrowed it because his own truck, he owns a construction company also. His own truck is not powerful enough and long enough, so he borrowed this crane and he is working with it. It's really strong and powerful crane. We were almost afraid if it will be strong enough, because we didn't see it before we came there, and it turned out to be even more powerful than we expected, and even more powerful than we even need. We had a huge accident today. Everything was doing fine. We were lifting. We did the 5th row today already, but then come here. Look at this. This huge crane that we hired for today simply hydraulic leak, and almost all the oil leaked out, and we have a problem. This crane just stopped in this position, and we had a huge log hanging on it, so we have to unload it, but we can work it because the blockade of the hydraulic stopped the crane in that position, and we had to use this another forest crane to unload, to unhook the log from the chains, put it down, and then unload this trailer that had another 4 logs on it, because they need this truck today. We have to go away. Now we're waiting for the mechanic for this truck, and we're simply waiting. We can't do nothing without the crane today.
So yeah, it took 3 days for the mechanics to fix the crane.
Yeah.
And then we came back.
We did 3 rows quite fast that day, maybe in 1 hour. We came back and working 1 hour. We're back in business after 2 days of fixing the crane. Again, beautiful sunny day, so we hope we're going to finish today.
These were our real hopes when we started and everything was looking good, and then all of a sudden
Leaking again. Well, the fix didn't hold and the crane is leaking again and we stopped again.
I think it's important that you guys know that the location we're working on, it's 2 hours from our headquarters. So we canceled other plans, we didn't do any other work, we again came here in the hope to finish the house today. Well, at the moment it's not happening again. And then we waited another 4 hours, and around midday we started working again. The crane was fixed.
We fixed the crane for the second time, and I hope this time it hold at least till the rain comes. And everything was fine. The crane was working, we were working, Aleš was also working.
There was just a bit of rain, but we continued the work.
And then the crane broke down again. For the third time.
Yes, and the second time in 1 day.
Fucked up.
You can see the frustration here. It's not like, yeah, there's no words for it.
Aleš wasn't happy, and then the rain came on top of everything.
What were you saying about the rain?
I don't want to comment that at this point.
So no comment
No, not for now.
about the truck?
Not for now. We are now waiting for the rain to stop and for the crane to be fixed third time. While the crane is being fixed by mechanics, we took some time to fix this log that was damaged in transportation. We just, it wasn't braked entirely, it just snapped a little bit. We just screw it back with a couple of screws and it was holding enough so we can mount it in the house. A lot of people asking us what tool are we using. You'll find the links to our tools in description, and I hope you'll find that useful.
What are you using right now?
It's a hammer stapler.
Can we find that in the description?
That's in description also.
Imagine having a log house on a location like this. And these are the mechanics coming for the what, third time that day?
Third time trying to solve the problems.
The situation was tense. I didn't want to film everything, so if we were just jumping from breaking crane to working, it's just because it was kind of uncomfortable to film at that point. The mechanics were there. They were staying by the side at the moment. Here they are. Here they are, and a bit confused what's going on themselves. So what's going on?
We're working finally. Now we're installing the floor locks and the 7 saddles and notches log, and the rain starts again.
No, the rain stopped the working. You were a bit stubborn and still continue working, but
The rain started again, and even more rain than before, but I wanted to hit those wedges in and then stop. These will be anchor points for purlings. We'll fix them on the last beam with these threaded rods. Yeah, this is the last log before purlings.
This is the last log before purling going up.
Yes, on this one we put the purling, like this is the purling now. We have to hit all the holes in one time, and we somehow manage that without bending any of these threaded rods. Whole length of the purling is 14 meters, and also the location is remote, and the truck.
It was unreachable with a bigger truck.
Yes, they were 14 meters long together, and if we would do it with one logs, it would be quite an awkward log, too thin on one side and too thick on the other side. So we decided to cut them in half, doing from two different logs. And yes, we stuck the sheep wool as much as we can in this connection. The rubber sealing is already in there, and now pressing the wool inside as much as we can.
And the biggest main part, actually the walls and everything was done at this point, right?
Yes, this is actually end of the log construction, and now we just have to put the ridge log and finish this, our part of the job on this construction.
At this moment we are like maybe 3 crane fixed behind us this day.
Yeah.
And we are not going home. We will continue working now on the ridge log.
Yes, we had a couple of hours of daylight, and we decided to stay to the dark because the next day was already raining forecast. So we just decided to work as long as we can. Here we are cutting the saddle for the ridge log post.
Yeah, as the sun was going down, I just wanted to film a bit more of the quietness and the beautiful location as it is.
We are now cutting the ridge log posts. Marking the holes for the ridge log posts. This is the ridge log. This is the ridge log.
So basically you're making the holes into the ridge log.
Yes, now the ridge logs, now the holes for the posts are cut, and all we have to do is put the posts in those holes and fix everything together and put it up. We have to do quite a lot of measuring, because if we miscut for 1 centimeter or 2, the rafter won't fit on that ridge log.
Also, we are not the one that will build the rafters and the roof, so we were being extra precise to let the other carpenters continue on a job well done.
Yes, usually if we are doing the whole roof, you can sometimes compensate some errors with the rafters, but this time we are, as you said, trying to make it as precise as we can, so the other team that is going to work on the rest of the roof won't have problems and doesn't have to compensate every hour of mistakes.
As you can see, we were working till late that night. What's going on again?
Well, third day on the site, and this is not our friend. Now, officially, we hate this truck. The batteries are dead. 3 times fixing the hydraulics, and today the batteries are dead. So this is now officially our enemy.
Okay, of course, the batteries were not such a big worry like when the hydraulics died. So we continue with finishing the ridgelog, and in the meantime the batteries were fixed. But imagine, every time traveling 2 hours, coming to location, and then every time these issues with the truck.
Yes, you simply get that bad feeling when starting your day with some bad news, like small things like truck doesn't start, and you don't know if you're going to start or not. Even that problem took 1 hour for the owner to get the new batteries, because so remote location that he had to drive at least 30 minutes to the store and buy new batteries to start the truck. We're now fixing the post to the ridge log. The crane started, and we can now finish the ridge logs and put all the posts inside.
The ridgelog is made out of 2 pieces, right? It's also too long to go up in 1 piece.
Also too long to be transported there in 1 piece. It's also 14 meters long as the purlings.
And finally, the first piece of the ridgelog is going up.
We have 2 lats supporting the ridge logs, so we can fix it in place and that doesn't fall down. We screw it, check it with a water scale.
Andrei is too short to screw that one, so Aleš.
This is the good thing when being small and short. You don't have to climb up on these dangerous parts of the day. Second piece of the ridge log is coming up.
With all the supports and everything. And this is gonna take a bit more time, because it needs to not only sit on the log house, but also needs to fit really perfect on the other piece of the ridge log.
Yes, it's everything cut, so it has to fit perfectly together. And it takes a couple of minutes longer to fix everything in place.
Like this, why you didn't do the holes before lifting the ridge log?
Because of the roundness of the logs, we simply couldn't measure exactly, and to be sure, we just put the second part of the ridge log on its place and mark where the hole has to be, and then drill it additionally. Here we have to support the floor logs, because the weight of the ridge log is starting to bending the floor logs, so we have to support it. It wouldn't break because it's strong enough, but it would bend it so that the roof would be done bended. Now when everything was supported beneath, then the hole for that post is drilled. We simply connect it together and finish the ridge log. Yes, the ridge log was finally in place, but that's still not the end of our work. We still had to cut the windows and doors. some minor correction in the position of the purling. We had to pull it 2 centimeters out. So as we said before, the other team is going to work on the roof, so they don't have too much problems with that. We just pull that and correct it to be in the perfect place.
Thankfully, the crane was working, and that correction was not like a big problem.
No, we just pulled it out for the 2 centimeters and it was done quite fast and easy.
For me, this is super satisfying to watch the windows and doors being cut in straight lines.
Yes, when it goes in straight line, it's quite satisfying. The problems become when the chainsaw is too dull, or maybe you hit some hard pieces and dull the chainsaw, and then when you cut it in the wrong angle, then it's a problem.
And it's a teamwork. Andrei was doing the big pieces, and then Aleš would finish the lower half of the last log.
Yes, he was cutting as you said, the lower end of the window. And here, this is the first time with our new chainsaw that is quite stronger than the old ones. And it's really so stronger that doesn't have no problems cutting through those massive logs. The owner said he's going to continue himself, and in the past 6 months we show you how we build the walls, how we put in the roof logs, and we show you how we completed the ridge log. We show you how we cut the windows. The nature here is beautiful, as you can see, and I hope the owner is going to enjoy this house. We had some problems during these past couple of months, but today we are extremely happy that everything finally came together and nobody got injured. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us so you can see our next build.